Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I want you to take a moment and ask yourself a simple but profound question. How often do I allow myself to be truly seen? Not just the version I show to the world, but the real me, flaws, fears, doubts, and all. In our quest to be strong, successful, and independent, we often forget something essential. We forget that the deepest strength doesn't come from hiding our wounds or pretending to be perfect. It comes from embracing our vulnerability, the courage to be real, open, and imperfect in front of those we care about. Today we will explore something that many of us shy away from, but that is at the very heart of every meaningful relationship: vulnerability. The raw, messy, beautiful truth that connects us, heals us, and transforms us. I want to tell you that vulnerability is not weakness. It is, in fact, the purest form of strength. It is the key that unlocks authentic connection, the doorway to real love, and the foundation of trust that no relationship can survive without. So, if you are ready to take off your armor, to let your guard down, and to embrace the imperfect truth of who you are, then you are in the right place. Because the journey toward deeper, more fulfilling relationships begins here with vulnerability. Let quote set begin. One, vulnerability is not weakness. It's the purest form of strength. We've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is a flaw, that showing emotion makes us fragile, that revealing our fears, our doubts, our soft spots somehow disqualifies us from being strong. But what if I told you that this belief is not only misleading, it's deeply damaging? True strength is not in the armor we wear to face the world. True strength is in the courage it takes to take that armor off. In a society that celebrates stoicism, silence, and the illusion of perfection, being vulnerable is an act of quiet rebellion. When you say, "I'm not okay," when you admit, "I'm scared," or when you look someone in the eye and confess, "I love you and I don't know if you'll love me back," that is not weakness. That is strength in its rawest, most human form. You see, anyone can pretend to be strong. Anyone can wear a smile while crumbling inside. But it takes immense inner power to say, "This is me, I may be bruised, I may be broken, but I'm still here, and I'm not hiding anymore." There is a kind of power in vulnerability that no external validation can replicate. It is the power of being real, and when you are real, you don't need to perform for anyone. You don't need to be perfect to be loved. You only need to be honest. I remember once hearing someone ask, "Aren't you afraid of what people will think if you open up?" And I responded, "Aren't you afraid of living your whole life unseen? Because that's the cost of hiding. You may protect yourself from rejection or judgment, but you also block yourself from connection, from empathy, from love." Vulnerability is the doorway to intimacy. It is the heartbeat of every deep relationship. Whether it's telling your partner how deeply you care, or telling your parent how much their words hurt, or sitting with your friend and saying, "I feel lost," that's where the magic of connection begins. And let me tell you something very clearly, vulnerability doesn't make you fragile, it makes you brave. Brave enough to face rejection, brave enough to be misunderstood, brave enough to love without guarantee. That's not weakness, that's courage in its purest form. We admire people like Muniba Mazari, not because they've had perfect lives, but because they chose to rise, to speak, to share despite their pain. Her story moves us because she did not pretend that she was unbreakable. She stood up with all her broken pieces and turned them into a mosaic of resilience, compassion, and authenticity. You too have that power. You don't need to have it all together to be worthy. You don't need to hide your tears to be respected. In fact, some of the most inspiring people you'll ever meet are the ones who have the courage to say, "Here is my story, with all its messiness. I'm not ashamed of it anymore." Letting others see your vulnerability doesn't make you dependent, it makes you real. It gives people permission to be real with you too, and in that shared space of openness, healing begins. So today, I urge you to redefine what strength means to you. Strength is not about never falling. Strength is having the courage to stand back up and say, "I fell, and I learned. I hurt, but I healed. I feared, but I faced it anyway." In the end, the strongest people aren't the ones who never show emotion. They are the ones who feel deeply, live openly, and still choose to show up every single day, just as they are. That is vulnerability. And that, my friend, is the purest form of strength. 2. Letting your walls down is the first step to real connection. Some of us are experts at building walls, walls so high, so thick, and so well crafted, that no one, not even those who love us most, can get through. We build these walls to protect ourselves from hurt, from betrayal, from being seen too deeply, because somewhere along the way, someone taught us that if we let people too close, we will break. But here's the truth. While these walls may keep the pain out, they also keep the love out. And what is a life without real connection? There's a difference between surviving and living. When you're hiding behind emotional walls, you might survive, you might make it through the days, but you won't feel truly alive, because to live fully is to feel fully, and to feel fully, you must allow yourself to be seen. Letting your walls down is terrifying. I know, it means exposing the parts of yourself you're not proud of, the insecurities, the trauma, the scars, the fear of not being enough. But those are the very parts that make you beautifully, deeply human. And it is only when you share your humanness that someone else can say, me too. You see, people don't connect with your perfection. They connect with your vulnerability. They connect with your truth. Think about it. Have you ever bonded with someone over a flawless Instagram photo, or a rehearsed smile? Or have you bonded when someone shared something raw and real, like heartbreak, loss, confusion, or even just the feeling of not knowing who they are? That's where real connection is born, in shared authenticity. But many of us, perhaps most of us, are afraid of rejection. We think, if I show them the real me, they'll leave. And yes, some people might. Not everyone deserves access to your heart, but the people who matter, the ones who are meant to be in your life, they will lean in when you let the walls down. They will not be scared of your darkness. They will help you find your light. There's profound beauty in emotional openness. It's not just about speaking, it's about being known. And to be known, you must be willing to open the doors that you've locked for so long. I want you to picture this. Imagine standing in front of someone you love, your guard completely down. You look at them and say, this is me, not the version I pretend to be, not the version the world expects, just me, raw, messy and real. And then imagine them responding, not with judgment, but with arms open wide. That moment, that is connection, that is love, that is what we're all searching for, deep down. Muniba Mazari once said, you are confined by the walls you build yourself, and she's right. These walls don't just keep others out, they keep you trapped inside. They stop you from growing, from trusting, from experiencing the fullness of human connection. Letting your walls down doesn't mean you open your heart to everyone without discernment. No, it means you choose courage over fear. It means you allow those who've earned your trust to see the real you, and in doing so, you give others permission to do the same, because vulnerability is contagious. When you show up as your true self, you invite others to do the same. You create spaces where people feel safe, seen and accepted, not in spite of their flaws, but because of them. So if you're tired of surface-level relationships, if you're longing for depth, for meaning, for real love, start with this simple, difficult, liberating step. Let your walls down. Take off the mask. Say the thing you've been scared to say. Share the part of you that you've kept hidden for too long. It will be uncomfortable. It will be risky, but it will also be worth it. Because when you let your walls down, you don't just let people in. You let love in. You let life in. You let healing begin. And that, my friend, is where real connection starts. 3. Emotional honesty builds unshakable bonds. In a world filled with filters, facades, and carefully crafted words, emotional honesty has become a rare and radical act. We are taught from a young age to smile when we're breaking, to stay quiet when we're hurting, and to pretend when the truth feels too heavy. But the truth, your truth, is not something to be silenced. It is something to be shared, because emotional honesty doesn't destroy relationships. It strengthens them. It builds unshakable bonds. Let me ask you something. Have you ever sat across from someone you love and wanted to say something so deeply personal, but the words never came out? Maybe it was, I'm scared, or I feel like I'm losing myself, or even just I miss you. But instead of saying it, you stayed silent, you smiled, you moved on, and inside, you felt a little more disconnected, a little more alone. That silence, it creates distance, but the words we dare to speak, those honest, raw, vulnerable words, are the very bridges that bring people closer together. Emotional honesty is the language of love. It's not about dramatic confessions or poetic declarations. It's about saying what's real. It's about looking someone in the eye and saying, this is how I feel, and I trust you enough to let you see it. And yes, it's scary, because honesty makes you vulnerable. You might be judged, you might be misunderstood, but without honesty, you'll never be known. And to be loved without being known is to be loved only for a mask you wear, not for who you truly are. The strongest relationships, whether romantic, familial, or platonic, are not built on perfection. They are built on truth. They are forged in moments when two people look at each other and say, I don't have all the answers, but I'm showing up anyway. They are deepened in the conversations where you admit, I made a mistake, or I'm struggling, or I need you. Muniba Mazari once said, speak even if your voice shakes. And that is the essence of emotional honesty. It is not always neat. It is not always polished. Sometimes it is messy. Sometimes it's painful. But it is always real. And what is real has the power to endure. When you withhold your truth, you create cracks in the foundation of your relationships. But when you speak from the heart, you build something solid, something that won't crumble when life gets hard. Because honesty doesn't push people away, pretending does. Here's the irony. We fear that telling the truth will scare people off. But in reality, it's the truth that draws the right people near. When you share your real emotions, you invite others to do the same. You create a space where authenticity is not just welcomed, it's celebrated. Imagine a world where we didn't have to guess what others were feeling. A world where you could say, I feel neglected, and instead of defensiveness, you're met with understanding. A world where you could say, I'm proud of you, or you hurt me, or I love you, and know that your words would land on a heart that's open, not guarded. That world is possible, but it begins with you. It begins with the decision to stop hiding behind politeness, or fear, or pride, and to start speaking with honesty, empathy, and courage. Emotional honesty does not mean saying everything you think without care. It means expressing what you feel with kindness, with clarity, and with respect for both yourself and the other person. It's not about being blunt, it's about being true. So if you want to build a bond that's unbreakable, start here, say what you mean, feel what you feel, and trust that your truth is worthy of being heard. Because the people who are meant to walk with you in life, they won't run from your honesty. They will hold it with reverence. They will meet you in your truth. And together, you will build a connection so deep, so solid, that no storm will shake it. Emotional honesty is not just communication, it is communion. It is where healing begins, where trust is born, where love becomes real. Healing begins where vulnerability is embraced. We often speak of healing as if it's a destination, as if one day we'll wake up and all the pain will be gone. But healing is not a place you arrive at. It is a journey you walk through. And the first step on that journey, the one so many of us are afraid to take, is vulnerability. You cannot heal what you refuse to feel, and you cannot truly feel without allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Most of us are carrying invisible wounds, broken childhoods, failed relationships, betrayals, losses, and silent battles we fought behind closed doors. We tell ourselves to be strong, to move on, to not dwell on the past, and so, we bury our pain under layers of busyness, sarcasm, perfectionism, or emotional numbness. We smile when we want to scream. We say we're okay when we're falling apart inside. But silence is not strength. Denial is not healing, and pretending to be okay is not the same as being okay. True healing begins the moment we stop hiding, the moment we say, this hurts, the moment we whisper, even to ourselves,
I'm not as fine as I appear to be.
That moment of honesty, of stripped down truth, is vulnerability. And that is where the light begins to seep through the cracks. We are human beings, not machines. We are meant to feel, to break, to bleed, to heal, and then to feel again. And it's in the cycles of this very human experience that our strength is forged. But only when we stop pretending that we're invincible. There is no shame in pain. There is no weakness in sorrow. If anything, there is sacred power in saying, I am wounded, but I am willing to heal. You do not need to have it all to be worthy of healing. You do not need to hide your tears to be respected. In fact, healing requires that we lean into our rawness, that we open the doors we've kept locked for years, and finally allow ourselves to feel. And sometimes, it's not just about being vulnerable with others. Sometimes, the most profound healing begins when you are vulnerable with yourself. Ask yourself, When was the last time I sat quietly with my pain? When was the last time I gave myself permission to cry without shame? When was the last time I said to myself, you've been through so much, and it's okay to still be healing? You see, vulnerability is not just about telling others your story, it's about telling yourself the truth. And in that truth, there is transformation. When we begin to embrace vulnerability, we stop running, we stop pretending, and for the first time, we start feeling. That's where the wounds, once festering in silence, begin to breathe. And it is in the open air of honesty that healing truly begins. Think about the people who have inspired you most, not because they were perfect, but because they were real. People like Muniba Mazari, whose story moves the world, not because she hides her scars, but because she shows them with dignity and grace. She teaches us that the path to healing is paved with authenticity. She reminds us that being vulnerable is not a liability, it's the foundation of inner strength. In your relationships, your friendships, and even in your relationship with yourself, healing will not happen in isolation. Healing happens in safe spaces, spaces where you are allowed to break, to speak, to weep, and still be held with compassion. So if you are still hurting, still bleeding inside, know this: you don't have to have it all figured out to begin again. You only have to be willing to show up as you are. Healing doesn't ask for perfection, it only asks for presence. And that presence begins when you embrace your vulnerability. So breathe, speak, cry if you must, reach out, be honest. You are not weak for needing healing. You are human, and every time you choose vulnerability over silence, you take one step closer to wholeness. Because healing doesn't begin where we are strong, it begins where we are real. 5. Love grows when we show our scars, not just our smiles. Inspired by the emotional resilience and authentic voice of Muniba Mazari, we live in a world where everyone seems to be showcasing only their highlight reel, the best photos, the brightest smiles, the smoothest moments. But behind every smile you see, there's a story. Behind every seemingly perfect life, there are unseen battles, hidden scars, and untold pain. And yet, we keep hiding our wounds, hoping to be loved only when we're at our best. But here's the truth: love doesn't grow in perfection, it grows in truth, it grows in vulnerability, it grows when we show our scars, not just our smiles. When we cover up our pain, we miss the chance to be truly seen. And if we are not truly seen, how can we ever be truly loved? You might think showing your wounds makes you less lovable, but in reality, it is your openness, your honesty, your courage to say, this is where I hurt, that deepens human connection. Love is not afraid of scars, it is strengthened by them, because our scars are not signs of defeat, they are evidence of survival. They say, I've been through the fire, and I'm still standing. When you share your scars with someone, you are not seeking pity, you are offering a glimpse into your strength. You are saying, this is what shaped me, this is where I learned, this is who I've become. And what happens when we dare to reveal that part of ourselves? We invite others to do the same. In a world that often demands we be flawless to be accepted, showing your scars is a rebellious act of love. It says, I will not pretend to be someone I'm not just to be loved. I will be real, and I will be loved for that. Think about the moments that brought you closest to someone. Were they the polished, perfect ones? Or were they the vulnerable moments? When you sat with a friend and said, I'm really struggling. When you cried in front of someone and they didn't turn away. When you shared your shame, your regret, your truth, and they held space for you instead of running away. That is where real love is born, not in the performance of strength, but in the quiet courage of being seen in your weakness. Muniba Mazari, a woman who turned her pain into purpose, often speaks of how beauty lies in brokenness. Her life is a testament to the idea that our most painful moments can become the most powerful chapters in our story, if we are brave enough to share them. She doesn't just inspire because she's overcome adversity. She inspires because she talks about it. She shares her pain, her fear, her grief, and in doing so, she connects to the hearts of millions. That's the power of showing your scars. When you show your true self, you allow love to meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. And only love that meets you in your truth will ever be real. Fake love clings to appearances. Real love holds space for brokenness. So stop hiding your scars. They are not shameful. They are sacred. They are the proof that you dared to live, to try, to feel, and to heal. Your scars are your story, and your story matters. Don't rob someone of the chance to love you as you are. Flaws,
fears, and all. Give them the opportunity to say, I see your pain, and I still choose you. And if someone walks away after seeing your scars, let them go. Because the right people, the real ones, they won't flinch at your wounds. They'll sit with you. They'll listen. They'll hold you. They'll stay. In the end, we all want the same thing, to be loved for who we truly are. And the only way to receive that kind of love is to show who you truly are. So let go of the performance. Take off the mask. Reveal your heart. Show your scars. Because real love doesn't grow where you pretend to be perfect. Real love grows where you choose to be real. 6. The most beautiful relationships are built on imperfect truth. We live in a world obsessed with perfection, perfect selfies, perfect relationships, perfect moments, captured and filtered until they shine. But behind every perfect picture, there's a truth we rarely talk about. The flaws, the fears, the unspoken pain, the messy human experiences that don't make it onto social media. And yet, when it comes to relationships, real, lasting, soul-deep relationships, it's not perfection that binds people together. It's honesty, it's imperfection, it's truth. Not the kind of truth that is polished or sugar-coated, but the kind that is raw and unfiltered. The kind of truth that says, I'm not always strong. I get jealous sometimes. I've been hurt. I've made mistakes. But here I am, choosing to show up anyway. The most beautiful relationships aren't the ones that look flawless from the outside. They are the ones where two people look at each other and say, I see your scars, and I'm not going anywhere. They are built on imperfect truth, the messy conversations, the vulnerable confessions, the courage to say, this is all of me, can you still love me? And the miracle happens when someone says, yes, not in spite of your imperfections, but because of them. You see, we are all imperfect. We all carry emotional baggage, childhood wounds, insecurities, and doubts. When we try to present a perfect version of ourselves, we're not only deceiving others, we're robbing ourselves of the chance to be truly loved. Because here's the thing, if someone only loves the image you present, they're not really loving you. They're loving the mask, and wearing that mask day after day. It's exhausting, it's isolating, it makes you feel unseen, even when you're surrounded by people. Real love, on the other hand, begins when we dare to tell the truth. When we say, I'm not okay today, and the other person doesn't flinch. When we admit, I've been through things that still haunt me, and instead of pulling away, they lean in closer. When we reveal our past, not to scare them off, but to invite them into our journey. That is how unbreakable bonds are formed, not through pretending, but through truth, through vulnerability, through the courage to be fully, unapologetically human. I want you to understand something deeply. You do not need to be perfect to be loved. You do not need to have it all together to deserve connection. Your truth, even with its cracks and stains, is worthy of being heard. And when you find someone who can hold your truth without judgment, who doesn't run when it gets real, that is sacred, that is rare, that is love in its most powerful form. Muniba Mazari once said, don't hide your scars, they make you who you are. Our scars are not signs of weakness, they're signs of survival. They are proof that we have lived, that we have hurt, and that we are still capable of love. When two people bring their imperfect truth to the table, what they create is not a fairy tale. It's something far more real. It's a relationship built on mutual understanding, trust, and compassion. They become each other's safe place, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is true. So stop chasing perfection in your relationships. It doesn't exist. Instead, chase truth. Embrace imperfection. Choose real over ideal. Because love that only exists in perfect moments will vanish the moment life gets messy. But love built on truth, that kind of love endures. That kind of love survives the storm. That kind of love grows stronger through every crack, every tear, every moment of doubt. So take off the mask, speak your truth, show your real self, because somewhere out there, someone is waiting, not for your perfection, but for your honesty. And that's where the most beautiful relationships begin.